Welcome on the Kaiju no Kami here at Denver Comic Con 2017, and I've got author Liv Hadden and artist Mo Malone with me. Welcome, are you enjoying yourselves?
Oh yeah, we're having a blast.
Yeah, so much fun.
Is this your first time at Denver Comic Con?
This is actually my second time. I came as an attendee last time. This is my first time as an author with a booth and all that.
And this is my first time. Not to Denver, but to definitely the Comic Con.
And is this your first time at a convention ever?
No, not my first time.
Okay, so you're not like completely overwhelmed because this is your first experience.
Yeah, no.
Because to some it can be overwhelming, and even to some that have been at smaller conventions, they walk in like, whoa, what the?
Yeah, no, just the energy is great. We're both pretty outgoing people, so we don't have a hard time talking to strangers, you know. Yeah.
So to start, what inspired you to be a writer and you to be an artist?
So for my writing, I was in elementary school actually, and I always enjoyed my English classes. But I had a 5th grade teacher pull me aside after one assignment we had to share with the class, and she just said, "You're going to write a novel one day, and I can't wait to read it." And that just kind of got stuck in the back of my head, and so I did one day write a novel, and I actually dedicated the first book to her. And it was really kind of cool to think she said this 20 years ago she tells me this thing, and then now she's reading my actual novel. It's really cool.
And yeah, I've been making art my whole life, ever since I was a little kid. It was kind of probably really through a lot of teachers, spotlighting my work, that it really started to trigger, oh, wait, she's not doing this for everybody. Maybe I'm good at this, And yeah, it's just been a lifetime of art.
I had one of my high school teachers junior year, my English teacher. I wrote this review. He's like, "You should be a reviewer because you would be perfect at it." And now that's partially what I do when I'm on YouTube, is review stuff, which is kind of interesting and awesome at the same time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I totally think just if one person believes in you and you're like, yeah, I could do that, then game over, it's really cool.
Yeah, it was so weird because I'm like, wow, 20 years later, and I'm actually doing that.
Yeah.
So first, before anything, you did this?
Oh yes, this is my artwork. These are pretty much the two main characters of the book. It's a friendship that is like a slow going friendship that blossoms into something awesome. It's awesome.
And what can you tell us about this book?
Yeah, so this is actually the second in a series, and it's written, the first book is written from this character Shame's perspective, and Shame is really dark and cynical and broody, and that novel kind of has that tone. But for the second one, I kind of wanted to do something fun, more animated, a little more lighthearted, but still tell the same story. So I had this guy, Juicebox here, who is a lot more positive, glass half full kind of guy, tell the story, which is where the artwork, I really wanted to incorporate that. I was reading a Deadpool graphic novel, and I was like, oh my gosh, I really want pictures in my book, but I don't know how to write a graphic novel, so I just was like, I'm just going to put pictures in my book. Adults like to look at pictures too, and so I called her up, and she made me a bunch of beautiful, beautiful comic book type illustrations that are in the second book now.
So it's still a full-length novel, but with just illustrations in it?
I would say it's more novella style. It's definitely designed to be like a quick read. I don't know if you've seen James Patterson's book Shots, but that also kind of inspired me how I wanted to condense it. Technically it's the second book in the series. I'd say it's more like 1.5. It's going to be a nice bridge to the next installment.
And so your two stories, the first one was about her, you said?
Yeah, actually Shame pretty much narrates that whole first book and ends up meeting Juicebox along the way, and then Juicebox narrates this second smaller version, yeah.
And do they take place at the same time then from different viewpoints, or are they all just stories one right after the other?
Yeah, it's one right after the other. So Juicebox picks off where we left him in the first book, and then we kind of see from his perspective moving forward. Yeah.
It's such really great looking artwork. And what inspired you to design them in this manner?
Well, I mean, I've collected comics, most of my childhood, so I really referenced a lot of stuff that I already had. And Deadpool was kind of like more of the direction that Liv wanted to go, and just kind of really pulling references from all kinds of places. I headshots and different pictures from comics and photographs of people, for each character. And just every time I get ready to start a new piece, for following chapters, I just kept referencing the same stuff. So I try to get like the same level of consistency. But yeah, I don't know. I was kind of reading the book. You sort of get an image in your mind of, the descriptions that Liv has in the book, and then kind of where my descriptions kind of keep expanding off of that. I started really just like, okay, how do these characters look? Like, are they tall? Are they thin? Like, are they animated? And definitely Juicebox is. He's almost like the annoying little brother, and so it's like, and he's a teenager, so, it's like, want to get that kind of like vibe of energy and youth. And then Shame, actually in the first book, you don't really know if it's a male or a female, and it was pretty amazing writing that Liv did to really, it makes the reader sort of choose what they think.
So it's kind of ambiguous?
Oh yeah. No pronouns to describe it. So it with some of the pictures we had talked about it, like maybe having some images more masculine and then other ones more feminine in the book, since we were going to be adding illustrations, and it could be sort of this like flip-flop back and forth of like really just pushing that whole gender line of like, well, we don't know, it's sort of like you have to kind of decide for yourself what you think. But Shame is so dark and cynical, dark cloud over mass murder spree. This is not a book for young children.
That was actually one of my questions. If kids could read these, or if they were for adults.
Yeah, I tell people 16 plus. If you're not going to let them see like a horror film, they don't need to read the book. It's pretty gory. She likes to describe it as very Tarantino-esque. Yeah.
That sounds really cool. But then kids today are so much different than they were back then. I've had kids that are playing Grand Theft Auto that will come up to ask me questions about it. So it's amazing just to know the maturity level is different because of the internet.
Oh, it's just opened up a whole world to kids. You can look up something innocent and who knows what kind of pornographic or violent or what direction the internet's going to, invite them to witness and see, So, yeah, I know it's really deceiving because the artwork is so like, oh, this looks like it's kid-friendly, but it's not.
And that happens a lot. There's a bunch of stories that you're like, oh, it's so kiddie. Like, Cruella Cocaine, when she was younger, her uncle's like, hey, I rented this cool kids movie for you called Child's Play. Let's watch it.
Oh, no. That's so terrifying. I would have thrown away all of my dolls after that. Like, they would have all just been in the trash.
Actually, she said she locked them in the closet.
Yeah. You have to do something because, man, like, you can't watch that at 8 and think, like, oh, cool. Yeah.
Me, on the other hand, my parents wouldn't let me watch R-rated movies, so I grew up on like Wolfman, Frankenstein, Dracula, Mummy, and all those. So it put an interesting perspective because I love horror. Like, I do love Halloween, but I like the horror movies that are more built on suspense than just gore porn.
It's more theatrical, I feel like, the way the old like horror, classic horror movies were for sure. But then I don't know. Then it's like the 60s, really the 70s and the 80s hit, and it's like, all right, well, we have to have some boobs in the movie somewhere. It's like, all right, let's jack up that R rating.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I can't lie, I'm a big 80s horror film fan. Every year I watch Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Friday the 13th. I kind of watch all of them. And actually it's kind of cool historically, especially for like Friday the 13th, because the first one is like so different from the movies you watch now. It's really slow and like the definition of kitschy, and like the blood's so fake, and they've got the really horrible trope of like the completely helpless girl. Like at one point her boyfriend Paul is like being maimed by Jason, and she's just going, Paul? Like in the corner, and you're like, run or help. Don't just stand there repeating his name. But I don't know. I think it's kind of fun to see that. I'm definitely not in love with the horror films of today because I think you're right. It's slashing for slashing's sake. I did see one recently though that I really liked. Have you guys seen Hush?
Which one?
Hush.
No, we have not seen that one yet.
Yeah, it's on Netflix, and I highly recommend it. It's definitely like bloody, but it's way more suspense and like thriller. And you're just sitting there. Like, I was getting so anxious for this main character that I had to like leave and take a shower and let like 20 minutes of the movie pass before I could come sit back down, because I was like, oh my god, I'm so nervous for her. It was really well done. I really enjoyed that.
If you haven't seen them, you should check out The Witch and Get Out. Those are both really good ones.
I think I have seen The Witch. Yeah, I'm a fan of all horror.
Yeah.
I like the slash, I like the classic, I like the trauma, like the goofy, it's all good. And actually, there's quite a bit of slashing in the first book.
Yeah.
So there's some violence for sure.
Yeah, back to the comment about Friday the 13th being tame. Just basically Bart Simpson's quote about Edgar Allan Poe. Oh yeah, it must have been violent back then, but it's like Friday the 13th today and it's tame.
Yeah, no, that's so true. It's so interesting to see like what scared our parents versus like what's scaring us.
Well, I have a horror movie book that was published right after The Exorcist came out, and it's from everything from the 20s through The Exorcist, and the guy talks about how horrible The Exorcist is, how he hopes that this body gore stuff does not become the normal, that movie studios don't decide to rely on tearing people apart to make people vomit to get the fear factor in, as opposed to suspense and atmosphere. So, and knowing where horror is today, that was interesting to read like 2 years ago.
Well, yeah, and I mean, because that was pretty tame, compared to our standards now. So it's all relative.
Yeah, he must be so disappointed.
I know, I would love to see him do like a book today about the horror, and just knowing if he's accepted where it went or if he is still, oh my god.
Yeah, maybe he just turned his TV off permanently.
So what would you say to kids who are unsure if they want to get into writing or being an artist because they're afraid that they might be made fun of, or someone just like, oh, you can't do that?
That's going to happen. If you want to be in art of any sort, for whatever reason people feel if you share your creativity with the world, then they have a right to comment on it. I don't think that's great, but it happens, and so I think you need to be aware of that. I think what I tried to pay attention to, and what kids who are trying this stuff should pay attention to, is how does it make you feel when you're doing it? And if you feel really, really great and someone makes you feel bad, it's not the art that you shouldn't be doing. It's the talking to that person about your art you shouldn't be doing. If it makes you feel really good and you really enjoy it and you lose time doing it and you couldn't picture your life without it, even if you have to kind of keep it secret for a little while, man, have your secret little Pandora's box in your room, If it makes you happy, do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're a kid, it's like, you're unsure of everything you're trying to do. So to some extent, like with that innocence, it's like, just follow your heart, just do what you want to do. Don't care. It doesn't matter. It's your parents and anybody that loves you is going to be supportive. But then as you do decide, hey, I want to be a writer, and you're a teenager and you're growing up, or an artist, you are starting to put like harder, you're really kind of your own worst critic, and you just like want to get better and want to get better and want to get better. And I think being willing to like, if you have a bad review of something that you made, like, don't like take it too much to heart. But if you're getting like people saying the same stuff, like, you do kind of have to do some self-reflection, because even if it is coming in a not constructive way, it's like, that criticism does, shape maybe how you do things. Either you rebel against it and be like, forget these people, I don't care, I'm doing what I'm going to do. But sometimes I think if you really do care about your art, you're going to like, well, maybe my line weight isn't as good, or maybe my compositions could be better. And for me, there's really only a few people that I really treasure, like, their opinions, and because they're not trying to change my artwork, they're trying to give me like constructive criticism. And really, if they're saying like, hey, this needs to be stronger, maybe focus a little more attention on this, you have to be willing to do that. I mean, no matter what line of work you're in, like, if you care about your craft, you should want to get better.
Yeah, and to kind of tack onto what she said, find people who do what you do, who love to do the same thing, and create a little community for yourself, a little safe space for yourself, where you can build that trust with other artists, and they can give you feedback in a way that's healthy and respectful and honors you as an artist. I definitely think that's really important, to find community.
So, are you saying that just saying, "Oh, this sucks," is not valid criticism?
No, that's ridiculous criticism. That's just me saying I don't like that. Okay, that's valid. You don't have to like it, but somebody else might like it. You know, it's just, yeah, if someone says that sucks, just say why, and then when they can't answer you, just...
But it's the internet. No one needs to answer anything.
Oh my God, don't read comments on the internet on anybody else's stuff or your own. Just gosh, that's such a sad hole to go down. Don't read comments on the internet.
I think people do. They just go out of their way to bully people, whether you're like 60 years old or you're 8. You know, it's unbelievable. Yeah.
I look at being for like internet celebrity status depends on how many hateful comments you get posted on your videos.
Yeah, no, I made a joke yesterday that as soon as, because someone asked me if I Google myself a lot, and I Google myself sometimes, mostly just to see how my website is ranking for boring SEO purposes. But I keep telling them whenever I get a Wikipedia page, that's when I'm going to stop Googling myself, because that's when it's all going to go downhill. That's when it's going to start being like the hate mail and I'll just stop. Yeah.
On the subject of the internet, where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, I keep up with a Facebook, an Instagram, and a Twitter. The handles are all Liv Hadden. Every single thing is Liv Hadden. LivHadden.com. Google me, Liv Hadden. It's easy. So just look for my name.
She won't Google herself, but you can Google her. Really, I just use Instagram at this moment. I'm building a website at the moment, but yeah, just MO__MALONE, and yeah, really through email. That's kind of like the best. I'm kind of a hermit. I'm anti-technology.
I've had teachers that are technologically impaired, as I call it.
It's like a generational difference for sure. I mean, we have 4-year-olds that are like hackers. It's insane.
Oh yeah, I've seen it. I've had kindergartners with the current version of the iPhone before, and I'm like, what do you need an iPhone for? You're 5 years old.
Yeah. Wow, that's kind of makes me sad.
Oh, parent driven.
That can't be good for your brain.
And then schools will have like classroom tablets for kids to do stuff on. So they'll have reading activities, writing activities on there. They'll have to book tests where they'll read a book and then they'll take the test on a tablet to show how much knowledge they have. So it's amazing how the classroom has changed. For one final question, do you have any final comments for my viewers?
I guess if they're watching this to be inspired to do something, I guess all I could say is begin the begin. Like, you have to start. Finishing's not easy, but if you never start and you're just kind of sitting around going, one day is today, one day is right now. What does Seth Godin say? He says, what to do when it's your turn, and it's always your turn. Just get started. Whatever your art is, go grab it today and just do like 10 minutes of something, you know? There's no requirements. You just have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, just really follow what drives you. I mean, whether it's sports, whether it's going to Comic-Cons, like everybody's different and unique, and I don't know, follow what you like to do, because it's going to lead you down some paths that are going to be fun, and you're going to have an interesting adventure in life.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Until next time, bye.